Today we're going to be talking about some of the basics of sentence structure and how to build sentences that are interesting and complex while at the same time grammatically correct. Before we begin the lesson, you'll need to print Worksheet 1 to take notes on. At times, you may need to pause this video while you complete the worksheet and take notes. Pause it now while you print Worksheet 1. Let's start our discussion with a simple sentence that contains only a subject and a verb. Dogs bark. Although this is a short sentence, it is complete because it contains a complete thought and has a subject that does the action, dogs, and a verb, the action, barks. You probably don't want to use many sentences that are this short in your writing. So let's begin adding to the sentence to make it more interesting to read. We could start this process by adding more information about the subject, dogs. Let's tell our reader who the dogs belong to and their size. Now our sentence reads, "My neighbor's big dogs bark." While this sentence is more descriptive than the original, we can still add more information to it. People might want to know when the dogs bark, so we could add a prepositional phrase at the beginning of our sentence to answer this question. At 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark. Notice that the prepositional phrase begins with a preposition like on, in, for, or by, and is followed by a noun. It does not have a verb or an action. You can see some sample prepositional phrases on Worksheet 1. Don't forget to add a comma at the end of your prepositional phrase if it is 3 or more words long. This will help to separate it from the subject of the sentence and not confuse your reader. Now this is beginning to look more like an interesting sentence, but we still have some other ways to include additional information. One of the most common ways to do this is with coordinating conjunctions, called fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. These allow us to show a relationship between two ideas. You can find more information on fanboys on Worksheet 1. Going back to our example sentence, maybe the dogs also whine while they are barking. We could add this information with a fanboy like this. At 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark and they whine. Notice that the two complete sentences are separated by a comma. However, because my neighbor's big dogs are the subject of both of the sentences, it's not necessary to repeat the subject in the second one. In this case, the sentence would look like this and wouldn't need the comma. At 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark and whine. There is one more common way to add information to sentences, and that's with conjunctions called subordinators. Like the fanboys, subordinating conjunctions show the relationship between two ideas. The reason that these dogs bark and whine every night may be because they're hungry. In order to show this idea, we could add a completely separate sentence. At 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark and whine. They are hungry. But it seems logical to connect this closely related information in the second sentence to the original sentence. Because these are two separate complete sentences, we cannot combine them without a conjunction. At 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark and whine. They are hungry. This is a run-on sentence because two independent sentences are combined without any punctuation or conjunctions. Therefore, to fix the run-on and show the relationship between these two complete ideas, we use a subordinating conjunction like when, although, if, or so that. You can find a complete list and explanation of subordinating conjunctions on Worksheet 1. In the case of our example, the second sentence, they are hungry, shows the reason that the dogs bark, so we should use the conjunction because. At 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark and whine because they are hungry. Now we have a complex sentence that contains a lot of descriptive information and the sentence is grammatically correct. Let's review the 4 different ways that we added information to this sentence. First, we expanded the subject by showing who the dogs belong to and their size. Second, we added a prepositional phrase at the beginning of the sentence to let the reader know when the barking happens. Next, we added a coordinating conjunction or a fanboy to show that more than one action was occurring. And finally, we used a subordinating conjunction to explain why the dogs bark and whine. To add variety to your writing, it's possible to construct this sentence in a different order. We can begin the sentence with the subordinating conjunction and clause. Because they are hungry, follow it with the prepositional phrase and a comma, because they are hungry at 5 o'clock every night, then add the original complete sentence. Because they are hungry at 5 o'clock every night, my neighbor's big dogs bark and whine. Let's practice this process by beginning with a simple sentence, students study. Pause the video now while you expand this subject, students, on your paper. Now that you've expanded the subject, add a prepositional phrase at the beginning of the sentence. Pause the video so that you have time to write this on your paper now. Now that you have an expanded subject and prepositional phrase, write another sentence and construct it and connect it to the first sentence with one of the fanboys. Pause the video now while you do this. And finally, use one of the subordinating conjunctions to show the relationship between the original sentence and a new sentence that you still need to write. Pause the video again now to complete this sentence. Yours looks different than this one, but here's an example of the process you just went through. Students study. First, expand the subject. Many hardworking students study. Next, add a prepositional phrase. On the second floor of the library, many hardworking students study. Third, add a second sentence with one of the fanboys. On the second floor of the library, many hardworking students study, but they also socialize. Optionally, remove the second subject if it's the same as the one in the first sentence. On the second floor of the library, many hardworking students study, but also socialize. Finally, use a subordinating conjunction to connect a second sentence and show its relationship to the first. On the second floor of the library, many hardworking students study, but also socialize before final exams begin. Compare your sentence to this one. Were you able to write a sentence that has all the parts that we've discussed? Now try to rewrite your sentence in a different order, just like we did with the first example sentence about barking dogs. Begin your sentence with the subordinating conjunction and clause. Follow it with the rest of your original sentence. Pause the video now while you do this. We can see how this is done with the sample sentence we went over a few minutes ago. Let's begin with the subordinating conjunction and clause. Don't forget the comma. Before final exams begin, many hard-working students study, but also socialize on the second floor of the library. Now it's time to do a little more practice. Print worksheet number 2, pause the video, and complete the exercises on worksheet 2. When you're done, start the video and we'll go over the answers. I hope this short lesson on building sentences has helped you understand a few ways to make your writing more complex and interesting to read, but also grammatical.